Let's be honest. A lot of men say they want women to be more feminine. They throw the word around like it's the magic fix to every relationship problem. But here's the kicker. Many men don't like feminine energy when they actually encounter it. Feminine energy isn't orderly. It's not supposed to be. It's fluid, it shifts, it flows, it changes its mind, it thrives on variety, on mood, and on rhythm. It is not built to be structured, predictable, and repeatable. That's masculine energy. So when a man says, be more feminine, but what he really means is, be exactly the same every day, feel the same things every day, and respond to me the same way every day, he's not asking for femininity. He's asking for predictability. He's asking for masculinity dressed up in heels. Think about it. When you expect the same words to always make her feel loved, you're asking for routine. When you expect the same touch to always turn her on, you're asking for certainty. When you expect the same responses every time, you're asking for predictability. And none of that is feminine. Here's how it shows up in real life. One day, flowers might make her melt. The next day, what she really needs is a listening ear or a back rub. Feminine energy is responsive to the moment. If you demand the same reaction every time, you kill the very thing you say you want. Here's another example. A father says, don't let the kids run the bath for hours. It's driving the water bill up. The mother responds, but it makes them feel better after a hard day at school. He gets angry at her refusal to just do what he says. But here's the irony. For her to just do what he says, she would have to step out of her femininity. Feminine energy is nurturing. So when she prioritizes comforting her children, she's embodying the role of woman and mother. He's embodying the role of man and father, structure, protection, and boundaries. The truth is, they're both problem solving, but through different lenses. The clash isn't about right versus wrong. It's about which problem feels more urgent to each of them in that moment, the bill or the child's heart. And this brings us to one of the oldest complaints in the book. For centuries, men have said it's impossible to understand women. But here's the truth. Using the word understand has always been misguided. Men have always understood women. The more accurate statement would be it's impossible to control women. Because if you know that something is fluid, shifting, and unpredictable, and you accept it as such, you do understand it. The issue is not a lack of understanding. The issue is a desire to control it. But here's the catch. The moment you control her, you lose the desire for her. Why? Because the spark of femininity is in her unpredictability. When you box it in, when you flatten it into routines, you've essentially created a dynamic where there are now two predictable men in the relationship. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Men say they want femininity, but they don't actually want the reality of it. Because the reality of feminine energy requires a man who can handle it. Can you handle unpredictability? Can you handle change without attempting to control the who, what, where, when, and why? Can you adapt when what worked last week doesn't work this week? That's the test. And here's the irony. The more you demand she be predictable, the more you force her out of her feminine energy and into masculine energy. Because routine, structure, and control are masculine traits. So in trying to force femininity, you actually kill it. So the next time a man says he wants a feminine woman, the real question is this. Do you want her actual feminine energy, or do you just want a predictable partner who never shakes your sense of external control? Before we end, let's clear up a big misconception. When we talk about masculine energy being active and feminine energy being passive, most people get passive wrong. Passive in this context doesn't mean weak. It doesn't mean dormant, and it definitely doesn't mean being a doormat. Passive simply means responsive. Active force equals the push. It initiates, it's deliberate, it makes the first move. Passive force equals the response. It adapts, it shifts, and it balances what's applied to it. Now, here's where feminine energy comes in. Feminine energy is often described as passive, but many people confuse that with powerlessness. They assume passivity means silence, submission, or letting your partner walk all over you. That's not femininity. That's femininity viewed through a trauma lens. True feminine passivity is not dormant. It's alive, responsive, and deeply influential. It's water. It doesn't strike first, but it shapes entire landscapes. It adapts to the container, but over time, it carves valleys, moves stone, and makes its presence impossible to ignore. So when a woman is embodying her feminine energy, she's not doing nothing. She's responding, shifting, and influencing in ways that aren't always as obvious as an active push, but just as powerful, if not more. Feminine energy isn't supposed to be neat and predictable. It's fluid, it shifts, and it responds. Masculine energy is active. It pushes, initiates, and applies structure. Feminine energy is passive, but not in the way most people think. Again, passive doesn't mean weak, silent, or a doormat. Passive means responsive. It's the equal and opposite force that makes the whole dynamic work. Think Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Push against the wall pushes back. Put your hand in water, the water moves around you. That's feminine energy, not dormant, but alive and responsive. This is why it's misguided when men get defensive at the phrase, I'll be feminine when you're masculine. I often hear men push back with, well, imagine if a man said, I'll be masculine when you're feminine. On the surface, that sounds like a fair reversal, but it actually misses the entire point. Masculine energy and feminine energy don't work the same way. Masculinity is active by nature. It initiates, it directs, and it creates a container. Femininity, on the other hand, is inherently responsive. It flows and it expands or contracts depending on the environment it's in. That responsiveness is its strength, not a weakness. So when a woman says, I'll be feminine when you're masculine, she's not withholding something out of spite. She's naming the truth of polarity. Her softness, her play, her vulnerability, and her openness are not switches she can flip on command. They come alive in response to the safety, healthy leadership, and groundedness she feels from her partner. It's the same principle you learn in science class without realizing it. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Masculine energy moves, feminine energy responds. That's the dance. To demand that she just be feminine first is like demanding water to stay perfectly still when you throw a rock into it. It's not in its nature. And more importantly, it misses the beauty of what actually makes it feminine in the first place. A quick self-check. What energy am I embodying in my relationship? Here's a simple way to check yourself in any moment. Am I initiating or am I responding to what my partner initiated? That's the fastest way to determine whether you're standing in active masculine energy or feminine responsive energy. Planning a date. Active masculine. I booked us a table Friday night at 7. Feminine responding. Positive. That sounds amazing. I can't wait. Feminine responding. Negative. Honestly, I'm not in the mood for dinner after the way you talked to me this morning. Conflict arises. Active masculine. Let's pause, take 30 minutes, and then come back to this. Feminine responding. Positive. Thank you. I need that space to breathe. Feminine responding. Negative. When you shut down, it makes me feel invisible. I can't just pretend that I'm okay. Intimacy. Active masculine. Initiating a kiss or pulling her close. Feminine responding. Positive. Yes, keep going. Feminine responding. Negative. I'm not feeling connected right now, and I can't give my body when my heart feels shut out. See the difference? Feminine energy doesn't guarantee compliance. It guarantees authenticity. Her responses, whether warm or challenging, are real-time reflections of how she feels in the moment. If you expect her to only respond in ways that please you, you're not asking for femininity. You're asking for control. And here's the paradox. As we've stated before, the moment you control her, you strip away the very feminine essence you claim you want. And for the Christian men, let's go back to the beginning. After Adam and Eve ate the fruit, God didn't call out to Eve first. He said, Adam, where are you? That question wasn't about geography. God knew where he was. It was about responsibility. Maybe it was God's way of signaling that something in the active force, Adam's role as the initiator, the one who creates safety and direction, had been distorted. But here's where many men still miss the mark today. Instead of accepting that feminine energy, the responsive force, exists to sometimes create roadblocks, they think the solution is to tame it. They treat resistance as rebellion instead of recognizing it as balance. Think about it. What happens when millions of active forces take off with no resistance? They don't build progress, they collide. That's chaos and that's destruction. Unless we're interested in another Big Bang, maybe it's time we finally learn that feminine energy, the responsive force, isn't a nuisance. It's the very thing that keeps masculine energy from destroying itself and everything around it. And maybe that's where Eve's role as the helper comes into play. Helper doesn't mean hype man, it means the balancer, the one who makes sure humanity's progress doesn't tip too far in one direction. Just like in Goldilocks, she ensures the porridge isn't too cold or too hot. It's just right. That balance is what allows humanity not just to survive, but to evolve. And before some of you men get all up in your feelings and say, Adam was fine until Eve came along, pause, breathe, and then ask yourself, can anyone learn, grow, or evolve without ever being tested?